Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today is December 20, 2024, and in this video, yes, we are going to be talking about the application for naturalization form N-400. Before beginning this video, I'm going to mention, as I mentioned in every video on this channel, I am not an immigration attorney. This is not legal advice. All the information provided in these videos on this channel are directly from official government sources. In this case, we're only going to be working with USCIS, US Citizenship and Immigration Services, and this is their official government website, uscis.gov. So let's start from the very beginning, where to find this form on uscis.gov. I'll put the links in the description below so it is easier for you to find it. But for everyone, I want you to know, just in case if you are looking for it yourself, if you wanna, gotta be able to do your own research, just in case. This is the homepage for USCIS. This is what it looks like. And from here, you can click on forms, and N-400 is one of the most accessed forms. So you will see it right here. You can access it directly through here. Alternatively, you can search in main search bar right here and just type N-400. Or if you want to find any of the immigration forms that are available, just go to all forms. And you can scroll down, it's in alphabetic, numerical order, or you can type in your form name, number, and it is going to come up. All right, now that you know how to find any form, really, here is the main page for the N-400 application for naturalization. Now, I am going to assume that you already know your eligibility, whether or not you are able to file this form. Most of the times, in most of the cases, whenever it comes to naturalization, you have to maintain your legal permanent resident status, having your green card for at least 5 years. If you've been a green card holder, a permanent resident for the past 5 years, that's it. Most likely you're eligible. This is one of the main eligibility criteria. Obviously, there is also the moral character thing, that you didn't have any kind of arrests, any kind of issues with law and order, so far so forth. So I'm going to assume in this video we're just going to take a regular example of John Doe, who has been a legal permanent resident based on, for example, let's say being a family member, going through family reunification case, and now he is filing for the naturalization because he wants to become a US citizen. That's what the process of naturalization entails. Hopefully you already know that. But if you want to be sure, if you want to double check, there's a very convenient feature that has been somewhat recently added here, is this check your eligibility tool. I'm going to open it in a separate tab, and I would recommend to go through it. It's pretty simple. Click on the determine my eligibility button right here and just answer these basic questions. So both of your parents US citizens, if you're, just in case if you're claiming, if you're applying for naturalization based on the fact that your parents have been citizens. In our case, I'll just say no, because how old are you? 18, under 18. If you're under 18, then somebody's petitioning for you. In our case, in our example, we will do 18 or older. Are you a member of US Armed Forces? In our example, I'll do no, but again, if it applies to you, then select whatever. Are you a lawful permanent resident? Obviously, that's important. You have to be for at least 5 years. So I'm going to select yes. I'm going to select no here. This is Violence Against Women Act if you're applying based on that. So I'm going to select no. Here, you see the numbers do matter here. So I'm going to select before to make sure that it's over 5 years. Have you left the United States in the past 5 years? One of the important things, again, whenever it comes to naturalization, they want you to establish continuous presence in the United States, that you're physically present in the United States, and you're maintaining your permanent residence. Obviously, keywords, permanent residence, and you have to show that you have been a permanent resident in the United States. So also very important, one thing to keep in mind during the application for naturalization, and also a little bit about the future. Once you submit this, once it is approved and reviewed, you're scheduled the interview, your naturalization interview, and these are also the questions that will be asked during your interview. So keep that in mind. So we're gonna select no in our example. Have you moved in the past 3 months? I'll select no. And there you go. You have been a lawful permanent resident for more than 5 years. You may be eligible to apply for naturalization. So pretty straightforward tool, just in case if you want to do it. Now, the thing number 2 before we begin. It's important to mention here that there are 2 ways to submit this application. One way is to do it online, and another one is to do it by mail. I highly recommend doing it online. You can still watch this video and go through with the actual paper application that I will be showing you, but it will prevent a lot of unnecessary mistakes, and it is a lot faster, obviously processed a lot faster, because there is no mailing that is involved. You don't have to wait until it, gets from you to them, and then from the PO box to the immigration officer's desk, and when they open it, so far so forth. You eliminate a lot of that stuff. And obviously, typing up on the computer, which we're still going to be doing it on the computer with the PDF document that they provide. I would recommend, even if you're doing the paper application and you're filing it by mail, I would still recommend typing it up on the computer to prevent unnecessary mistakes. With the handwriting, it's a lot easier to misinterpret something. Everybody has different handwriting. Mine is pretty horrible, so I stick to computer. But that's just a recommendation. All right, so if you're doing it online, you would have to create a USCIS online account. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. And then there will be a section there where you can add your own case, where you can select an application that you're filing, and just find in the drop down the N-400 application for naturalization, and you will be able to start. It's going to be the same exact questions, so you can follow along with this video. All right, another thing that I wanted to mention is make sure to check the edition date if you are filing it by mail. If you're doing it online, you don't have to worry about it because you're going to get the most updated stuff anyway. But if you're doing it by mail, make sure to check that in your application, and I'm going to open it now, the form N-400. And here you go. This is what it looks like. Only 14 pages, and most of these pages are super brief. We're gonna go through very quickly, so one of the easy applications, I would say, overall. But here is where you can find the edition date. If you scroll down to the bottom of any of the pages, here it is on the bottom left. Edition April 1st 24, and in the drop down April 1st 24. So if you're following this video, let's say 6 months from now, a year from now, and if it is a different edition, if it is an updated edition, I will try to keep up with updated videos on this. But if you're looking at a different edition, be prepared that some of the things might be different. All right, and if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments below and I'll try to answer. Okay, so we're done with that. Let's get with the paper application. If you're doing it online, same thing. You will see same options, same questions, so you can still follow along. All right, let's start. So the very first thing you will see in the application is this little blank space. This is for the immigration officer. That's why there is a start here. This is where you start. This is the only thing that we're gonna leave blank. Everything else we're gonna be filling out. All right, so we're starting here. If you're writing everything by hand, make sure to use print, not the, not the hand. Just try to make your handwriting as legible, as understandable as possible, and make sure to use black ink. All right, starting with part 1, information about your eligibility. This is what will determine the course of the application. So enter your 9-digit alien registration number, A number. You can find it on your green card. All right. Number 1, reason for filing. Please see instructions for eligibility requirements under each provision. If you are referring to the instructions, you can find the instructions in the same drop down for forms and documents. Right here, instructions for form N-400. Here you go, 29 pages, and we might be referring to that as well. I can close this, we don't need that. So we have a general provision. See instructions, list of general eligibility requirements. All right. B, spouse of a U.S. citizen. Again, see instructions, eligibility based on marriage to a U.S. citizen. C, that's the VAWA that we're talking about, the victims of domestic abuse. And if that's the case, again, instructions, eligibility for spouse, former spouse or child of U.S. citizen under the Violence Against Women Act. D, spouse of U.S. citizen in qualified employment outside the United States. E, military service during period of hostilities. F, at least 1 year of honorable military service at any time. G, other reason for filing not listed above. So as you've guessed most of the times, and in our example that we're using, John Doe, a person who came here based on family reunification, let's say he is a brother. Let's say he's a brother. His brother petitioned for him. He came, and now he's been here for 5 years as a permanent resident. So now he's applying for naturalization. General provisions. Boom. There, that's what we select. So most of the times this is going to be the case for you as well. But again, if any of these apply for you, you already know your eligibility, and that's what you're going to be selecting. Okay, moving further. Part 2, information about you. Pretty straightforward, pretty quickly. Your current legal name, family name, so last name, Doe, given name, first name, John, middle name, if applicable. We don't have, so we're gonna leave not applicable. Spaces like this in online application, it doesn't matter, but if you are filing the application by mail, don't leave any blank spaces. If it doesn't apply to you, like a middle name, let's say for example John Doe does not have a middle name, don't leave it blank, put not applicable. Sometimes I've seen quite a few applications being returned back saying, hey, you can't leave any blank spaces, so don't take chances with it. Other names you have used since birth. So in case if you change your name, for example, let's say, based on marriage, let's say you updated your last name. If that's the case, there you go, you have 2 different spaces for that. If not, then go through and put not applicable, not applicable, not applicable, not applicable. Doesn't take too long to go through it, but it prevents unnecessary delays in your application processing. I'm not going to do it from now on, but you get the point. All right, moving further is still part 2, still information about you. Don't forget to enter your alien registration number here at the top of the page. You cannot enter it on the computer. As you can see, only grayed out areas can be entered on the computer. So take a note of the page where you need to go back and fill it out. Once you print it out, go back and make sure you fill it out by hand. Don't leave it blank, obviously. All right, so read the instructions for this item number before you decide whether you would like to legally change your name. Okay, so that's one of the, I get a lot of questions about this particular section on the application on this channel. Yes, you do get an option to have your name changed during the naturalization process. Yes, obviously, if it's based on marriage, here you go. Here's your opportunity to update your last name. Or a lot of times, maybe not a lot of times, sometimes people prefer to change their name because, well, they're immigrants and they have names from different cultures and they're pretty complicated to be used here in the United States. I'm speaking from my own example, all right? I'm just speaking from my own example. So there you go. You have an option to change your name during the naturalization process. If that's what you want to do, would you like to legally change your name? Just say yes. And if you answered yes, type or print the new name you would like to use. So once you will print out the application, if you're sending it by mail, if you're filling it out online, you will be able to type it up. But if you're sending it by mail, print it out, go back and fill the name that you want to change. I'll stick to John Doe on this one, so we're gonna say no. Okay, number 4, USCIS online account number. Sometimes if you used USCIS online account number before, if you registered for an online account from USCIS, sometimes they send you that account number. Not every time. If you have it, put it in. If you don't have it, you can just type in none. Gender. male in our situation. Date of birth, obviously, make sure it's the same format, months, date, and then 4 numbers for year. All right. If you're a lawful permanent resident, provide the date you became a lawful permanent resident. All right. So that information you can find on your green card, one of the places, showing you when it was issued. Country of birth, country of citizenship or nationality. Was one of your parents a US citizen before your 18th birthday? If it's yes, say yes. If no, then say no. But keep in mind, if you're answering yes, you may already be a US citizen based off your parents' citizenship status. So keep that in mind. So most likely it's going to be no. So keep that in mind though. Do you have a physical or developmental disability or mental impairment that prevents you from demonstrating your knowledge and understanding of the English language or civics requirements for naturalization? So one of the things during the naturalization interview is you will have to establish your knowledge and understanding of English language. So obviously basic communication, basic questions, answering questions, and also civics. Whenever it comes to civics, it's questions that are pertaining to the country, United States, the culture, very, very basic questions, nothing crazy, like, for example, who was the 45th president of the United States, who is the current vice president of the United States, what is the first line of national anthem, how many stars are there in the flag, what is the main legal document of the United States. So basic questions like this. In fact, when you will go for biometrics appointment, once you submit the N-400, they will schedule, the very first thing that they will schedule will be the biometrics appointment. And you already know what it is because you are already at this stage. So you're doing the fingerprint, they're taking your pictures. So the cool thing about the biometric appointment that they schedule during your naturalization process is that they will actually give you that civics. It's kind of like not necessarily a book, just like a thin booklet or whatever, with, I think it's 100 questions over there that they pick from, and that's it. Yeah, just read through these 100 questions. They come already with answers. So yeah, that's really all that's necessary to be prepared. And honestly, most of the times, if you're more or less involved into the culture, into the politics of the United States, you're already familiar with all of that stuff. So it's really nothing crazy. But if you do have any kind of impairments that might prevent you from answering these questions or from preparing to, in general, during the interview, there you go. Right here you can select yes, and you will have to explain the additional, it's a medical certification for disability exemptions, where they give you an exemption from answering these civics questions and so far so forth. All right, so moving further, Social Security update. Do you want the Social Security Administration to issue you an original or replacement Social Security card and update your immigration status with the SSA, Social Security Administration, if and when you are naturalized? So most likely you will say yes, just so that the Social Security Administration knows that you are no longer just a resident, permanent resident, but you are now a naturalized US citizen. All right. Provide your Social Security number. You should have it already. If you're a permanent resident, you definitely already have it. So you're providing it here. And then there is a consent of disclosure, basically giving the authorization to USCIS to talk to Social Security Administration. So I'll just say yes here. All right, moving further, we got biographic information. Again, alien registration number, you will have to fill it out here when you print it out, don't forget that. So we got ethnicity, Hispanic or Latino, not Hispanic or Latino, race, height, weight, eye color, and hair color. Very straightforward, as you can see. Moving further, part number 4, information about your residence. So we are starting with the physical address, which is where you are actually residing, where you have been residing. So they are asking for the last 5 years of your address history, where you were living. So if you've been living the same address for the past 5 years, great, easy day. If you've been moving quite a lot, well, you will have to do some, typing out. So let's start with a current physical address. Current physical address, this is where you'll fill it out. In care of, obviously it's going to be you, or just in case if somebody is receiving the mail and then passing it on to you, you're putting their name. So street number, name, apartment, suite, floor, number, if any, city or town, state, zip code, province, if any, postal code, country. Dates of residence from, dates of residence to present, obviously. But you do have 3 more options here, and in online you will be able to add as many as needed. Here I will show you how to add additional information if it's not enough space, if you have more than 3 additional ones for the past 5 years. All right, so you need to provide physical addresses where you were living for the past 5 years. If you only lived in one address currently where you're living for the past 5 years, just select, put not applicable, not applicable. You already know the drill. All right, moving further. Number 2, is your current physical address also your current mailing address? Most of the times it's going to be yes. But just in case, if your mailing address where you are actually receiving the mail is different from where you're living, here's an option for you to say no, and then fill in your current mailing address if it's different. If it's the same, you can just skip through this, put not applicable through this, just to be on the safe side. Doesn't cost anything, doesn't take much time, just to be on the safe side. Okay, as you can see, pretty straightforward so far. Part number 5, information about your marital history. So what is your current marital status? Are you single, never married, married, divorced, widowed, separated, marriage annulled? All right, so these are the options that you have. So in our case, we'll just select single in our example, but there you go. If one of these applies, you're selecting whatever applies to you. Number 2, if you're currently married, is your spouse a current member of U.S. Armed Forces? Yes or no? How many times have you been married? All right, so if you've been married, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, there you go, you're putting it here. Provide current marriage certificate and any divorce decree, annulment decree, or death certificate showing that your prior marriages were terminated. So if you are married and you haven't been married before, the only piece of evidence that is required is marriage certificate. If you're married and have been divorced before, or let's say you have been married and divorced now, you're providing marriage certificate and divorce decree from the court saying that's it, that the marriage is no longer married. You get the point. If you're filing under one of the categories below, answer item number 4A8, spouse of U.S. citizen in qualified employment. If that applies to you, keep that in mind. All right, your current marriage. So if you are married, you're providing your current spouse's legal name, last name, first name, middle name, date of birth, date you entered into marriage. Is your current spouse present physical address the same as your physical address? So if you are married, most likely it is yes. When did your current spouse become a U.S. citizen? If they are a citizen, you can select one of these. Date your current spouse became a U.S. citizen. If that's the case, if it's not the case, just put not applicable. All right. Information about your marital history. We are continuing to part 5. Still, don't forget the alien registration number. Current spouse's alien registration number. Now it is your spouse's alien registration number. How many times has your current spouse been married? All right. Provide divorce decrees. Same thing. If your spouse has been, divorced, then you're providing same thing, from the court showing that the divorce actually happened. Current spouses, current employer or company. Okay, so down with the spouses. Now, moving further to part 6, information about your children. Indicate your total number of children under 18 years of age. Keep that in mind. So if you have 2 kids that are over 21, that are over 18, doesn't matter. One is 19, let's say, one is 21, okay? Indicate your total number of children under 18. So if you have 2 kids who are over 18, guess what? You have no kids. So yeah. So they only want to know the number of kids under 18 years of age. So keep that in mind. Provide the following information about your children identified in number 1. All right. So if you say 2 kids, let's say under 18, then you're providing their First name, last name, date of birth, residence. Valid options include resides with me, does not reside with me, or unknown missing. Relationship, obviously, biological child, adopted, so far so forth. Are you providing support for this child? Yes or no? All right. And if it's not applicable, if it's all zero, to be on the safe side, not applicable through the whole thing. Okay, moving further to part 7 now, we're talking about the employment and schools that you have attended for the past, yes, you guessed it right, 5 years. So for the past 5 years, I know there's not a lot of options here, but again, I will show you at the end of this application how to add additional, if you need more pages, if you need more fields to enter information, I'll show you how to do that. So you're entering here employer or school, so name of the employer or school, city or town, state, zip code, country, from, to, and occupation or field of study. So pretty straightforward for the past 5 years. For some people, again, that might be quite a lot of information, but if you have not gone to school and only worked for the same employer for the past 5 years, easy day. Okay, moving further to part 8, time outside the United States. Now, this is one of the important, very important things. If you have traveled during your 5 years of maintaining that legal permanent residence, this is one of the things they look at. This is one of the things they ask about, and obviously they ask it here in the application, and you can be 100% certain that they're gonna ask you about it during the interview in more details. Why did you travel? What did you want to do in that country? How long did you stay there? So far, so forth. So keep that in mind. So here's where you are entering. Again, last 5 years. All right. So date you left the United States, date you returned to the United States, countries to which you traveled. So here you are putting the destination. All right. So let's say, for example, you travel to Turkey. You went for vacation in Turkey for a week and you traveled through Germany. Your destination is Turkey. Germany is just a transit country where the transit flight is. All right, you get the point. So you don't need to put Germany or the transit stuff. It's only the destination, right? Try to be specific with these dates because that's what will determine whether you spent too much time outside of the United States. Again, if it's a little vacational trip, you don't have to worry about that. But if you went somewhere and you worked there, you spent there, 6 months, now that is the number that they're going to be concerned with, being like, hey, what'd you do in Turkey for 6 months? You're a permanent resident in the United States. Why are you spending so much time outside of the United States? All right. So make sure the dates are specific. You can pull up your arrival departure history. I have a video on this channel on how to do it. So look it up. It's I-94 arrival departure record. And yeah, that will make it a lot easier. You will have to go to Customs and Border Protection website, and you can, using your own information, you can pull up the arrival departure history. It will make it a lot easier to fill out all this stuff. Okay, so if you did not travel at all, you know the drill. Not applicable throughout the whole thing, not applicable, no leaving blank spaces, just to be on the safe side. I know it looks ridiculous, but it's better to be safe than sorry. All right, moving further to part 9, we are almost done with the application. As you can see, pretty straightforward. You would have to go through and read all of these yes or no questions. They're very straightforward, applicable to you, obviously answered truthfully. Have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen in writing or any other way? Have you ever registered to vote or voted in any federal state? Do you currently owe any overdue federal, state, or local taxes? Since you become a lawful permanent resident, have you called yourself a non-resident alien? you getting the drill. All right, so these are eligibility questions basically. You know, if you're saying yes to one of these, they're gonna look into it and be like, why? So you would have some explaining to do. So most likely everything is going to be no. Use a weapon or explosive with intent to harm another person. So it only gets worse, you know. As you go down this question list, it only gets worse. So hopefully all of these are no, but again, if answered truthfully and if any of these are yes, prepare for some explaining, prepare for some questions during the interview. All right, and don't forget the alien registration number again. Okay, so we are still going. We're getting into the additional information about you, about the criminal record. As I've mentioned in the beginning of this video, one of the eligibility criteria for naturalization is what they call moral character. And moral character is established by the fact whether or not you have been caught doing any kind of crime. All right. It sounds bad, I know, but yeah. So if you have been involved in some kind of criminal activity, if you have some kind of criminal record, you would have to disclose it here in this form. Obviously, no point of trying to hide it because it will come up. So this is where you're putting it. What was the crime or offense? So you would have to describe what happened. Date of the crime or the offense. Date of your conviction or guilty plea. Place of crime or offense. What was the result or disposition of the crime, of the arrest or citation or charge? So no charges, convicted, dismissed, so forth. What was your sentence? All right, 90 days in jail, 90 days on probation, you get the point. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hopefully it's all not applicable. Don't leave this blank in particular. But if any of these do apply for you, obviously you're filling it out. If you do need additional space, I'll show you how to fill out the additional space. Hopefully you don't. Okay, number 16. If you received a suspended sentence, were placed on probation or were paroled, have you completed your suspended sentence, probation or parole? Yeah. So if this doesn't apply, don't select it. Whenever it comes to yes or no questions, if none of them are applicable, that's one thing you can leave unselected at all, because you can put not applicable. Okay. Still a whole bunch of questions. These ones are more immigration related. If you have ever been placed in some kind of deportation, removal proceedings, if you have ever left the United States to avoid being drafted to the armed services, so far so forth. Read through them very carefully. Obviously answer truthfully. I'm not going to read through the whole because you can see a lot of them. Do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States? All right. Make sure you read it carefully because not all of them are no. All right. Do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States? I hope you do. Otherwise, you shouldn't be applying for naturalization. So keep it in mind. Not everything here is going to be no. Most of them are going to be no, but some of them are going to be yes. So read through them. Do you understand the full oath of allegiance of the United States? Again, should be yes. Are you able to take the oath of allegiance to become? One of the things, once you're done with your naturalization interview, once the immigration officer who will be taking the interview recommends you for naturalization, you will be scheduled the oath ceremony for naturalization. This is like the final stage celebration. You go to the court and the judge is, he's going to read, or she going to read the oath of allegiance. You're going to be raising your hand and repeating that stuff, and once you're done with all of that, they will give you the certificate of naturalization. All right, so that's what it is referring to. So obviously you have to keep in mind that these are going to be yes. If the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms, carry weapons on behalf of the United States? Yes, of course. If the law requires it, are you willing to perform non-combatant services? Yes. If the law requires it, are you willing to perform work of national importance? Yes. So if you're saying no to any of these questions, then be prepared to receive some questions during the naturalization interview asking you, so you don't want to take a full oath of allegiance to the United States, so why are you applying for a U.S. citizenship? All right, keep that in mind. Okay, done with yes or no questions. Moving further to part 10. Request for a fee reduction. All right. So this is one of the newer things that has been more or less recently added. to the application. So for information about fees or fee waivers and reduced fees, see Form G1055, fee schedule. To apply for reduced fee, complete item number 1 to 5. If you're not eligible for reduced fee, complete item number 1 and proceed to part 11. So one of the reasons why you might want to not do this online but file the paper application is if you want to apply for a fee waiver. If you want to waive the fee completely, I do have a video on this channel on how to fill out the fee waiver. You have to file it by mail with the actual application as one application package. Keep that in mind. But you can also request a fee reduction through the form directly. So if your household income is less than or equal to 400% of the federal poverty guideline, you might be eligible for the fee reduction. Keep that in mind. Total household income you would have to provide. My household size is, you would have to provide. Total number of household members earning income, including myself. I am the head of household, yes or no. Name of head of household. If it's the same, just put yourself in there. And that's really it. So pretty straightforward. So if that's the case, if this applies to you, then yes, you can go ahead and see if maybe you will be qualified for the fee reduction. Pretty straightforward. All right, we're done with the application. As you can see, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The very last thing, part 11, is the applicant's contact information, certificate, and signature. So the one thing, daytime phone number, mobile phone number. Try to use 2 different phone numbers just in case. You know, let's say, husband, wife. If you don't have, let's say, landline, put yourself, your own phone number, and your wife's phone number. You definitely put the email address so that they have information, your contact information, in case they need to reach you. All right. Applicant certification and signature. I certify under penalty of perjury that I provided and authorized all of the responses and the information contained, basically all the information that you provided in the application is correct and true, the best to your knowledge. All right. So date of the signature, and obviously you can't sign it on the computer. You would have to print it out and sign it. Whenever it comes to online applications, I get that question all the time. Yes, there is an electronic signature online, but all you're doing is you're typing up your full name, and that counts as the signature. That's really it whenever it comes to online application. But yes, there is a space to certify it online as well. Now, you will see that there is a part 12 and there is part 13 for interpreter contact information and the preparing person on the application. So both of these are services, where it's most of the times it's a paid service. Sometimes there are some non-profit organizations that help with immigration, filling out the application form, so far so forth. If you are using somebody else's service to help you fill out the application, then they are putting their information here. If it's some relative helping you, if it's your friend helping you out, translating something, they are not an interpreter, they are not a preparer. You don't have to put them. Just go through it and don't leave blank spaces, put not applicable, just to be on the safe side. But for example, if you have an attorney who's helping you with this application, then they will be filling themselves out as a preparer. All right, pretty straightforward. Now, the very last thing here on this application, part 14, additional information. So remember when I told you if you don't have enough space, let's say for example, you have more than, there you go. Let's say you filled out your 2 employers that you had, 2 employments for the past 5 years, and you also went to 2 different schools. So you put 1 school here, and now you need additional space for additional school. This is where part 14 becomes handy. So you go here, you check, it's page 5, part 7, item 1. So let's scroll down to part, here we go, part 14. Make sure to put in L in registration number. Make sure to put in your last name, first name, middle name, if any. And there we go. Page number 5, part number 7, item number 1. And go ahead in the same exact format that the questions are lined out. So for example, over there it was school, when you went to it, when you graduated, and your major. So you put in your school, some kind of US school, and then you're putting from whatever, February, same format, 02/12/2020, for example, to for example a year, and 12/2021 major, or maybe it's like kind of technical college, whatever. Let's say some kind of IT major. So that's it, you get the point. All right, now we're moving on to part number 15 and 16. These are the things these are the only things that you're gonna leave blank. If you're doing it online, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're filing the paper application, this is the only thing that you're leaving completely blank, apart from the part that is in the very beginning that we started with. Because part 15 is the signature at the interview. And the part 16 is the oath of allegiance. So you would have to read through this, and then you would have to sign it in front of the immigration officer that will be taking your interview. Okay, congratulations, we're done with this. If you're doing it online, you have an option now to submit the required evidence. Whenever it comes to evidence, for everyone it's going to be different, but for general purposes, it's going to be your legal permanent residence. You'll be showing the, your it can be the scan of your green card. It can be some kind of immigration forms showing that you are a legal permanent resident. So depending again on your eligibility, the document is going to be different. If you have been married, you're going to be providing your marriage certificate. If you have been divorced, you're going to be providing your divorce decree. So in online application, you will have a field where you can upload the documents in whatever format they're asking you. Most of the time it's going to be either PDF. I think you can do JPEG, as last time I dealt with it, but it was a while ago. So again, it will tell you which format it is in. Don't worry if you don't have everything right now. The application is saved, so you can come back to it later and upload the required documents. If you're doing it on paper, obviously you will have to make the copies of these documents and attach them with your paper application. The last other thing that you will have to attach with your application, besides the evidence, is the fee. So let's look at the filing fee, see how much it is at the very moment. So if you click on the drop down right here, filing fee, we're gonna go to fee schedule, and N-400 is already selected. And there you go. So the general filing fee for paper application is $760 at the moment. Online filing fee is $710 as of December 20, 2024. So if you're doing it by mail, you have a couple of options. You can do a paper check issued to the Department of Homeland Security, or you can do a credit card. But keep in mind, if you're paying with a credit card, you would have to fill out a credit card authorization form, G1450, authorization for credit card transaction. So make sure, don't just send the credit card details, but make sure to send this form along with your, obviously, credit card information in there. Okay, so once we're done with that, now, if you're doing it online, once you make the payment, that's it, the form is submitted. You don't have to worry about where to send it. But if you're doing it via the mail, regular mail, mailing service, you need to know where to file it. So again, USCIS.gov, this is where the answers are. Here's the drop tab for where to file. All right, so we're gonna go and we're gonna see where the addresses are, direct filing addresses for form N-400. Let's click on that. So there are two different filing locations. There's one separate for current or former members of military and their dependents, and there's everybody else. All right, so we're gonna click on everybody else, and you will see that there are a few different ones for different states. So depending on which state you are residing in, this is the location where you will be sending. So for example, our John Doe, who is right now filling out the N-400, lives, let's say, in Connecticut. So let's see where Connecticut, oh, it's the very first one, Connecticut. Here you go. So if you live in Connecticut, or Delaware, or Columbia, or Florida, or Georgia, man, if you live in these states, this is where you're sending it to. If you live in these states, this is where you're sending it to. If you live in these 4 states, this is, so you get the point. All right, so Connecticut, here are the options. There is one option for US Postal Service. So if you're sending it with USPS, this is where you're sending it to. If you're sending it with a courier, like FedEx, UPS, or DHL, this is where you're sending it to. So you see, there are a few different addresses, a few different options. So make sure you're sending it to the correct one. And that's really it. That's really it. I think I might have covered everything in this video. If you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments below. I do have a section on this channel that goes by volumes where I go through all of the comments and answer them in the video, just like this. So yeah, I'll try to get to that as soon as possible. So thank you very much everyone for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. God bless, and I'll see you all in the next video.